Coming up next on CTV News tonight, COVID vaccinations in Bowie.
A Bowie vaccination clinic receives a special visit from the state's second in command. I'm Katara Jones. I'll have much more on that story coming up.
Good evening, I'm Keisha Butts with the CTV News Update. The Lieutenant Governor met with Bowie leaders at a COVID vaccination clinic this morning. CTV's Katara Jones is in Bowie with more. Katara?
Lieutenant Governor Boyd Rutherford made a stop here at the Bowie Senior Center, which serves as a vaccination clinic here in the city of Bowie. Rutherford had an opportunity to meet with residents that were getting the vaccine, as well as medical staff that were administering the shots. Now, this partnership is with the city, state, and Safeway.
But as we now have more and more vaccines available, we're trying to reach more people that may not feel as comfortable going to a mass vaccine site, going to a senior center that they're familiar with. We still want to make sure that we're able to get as many seniors vaccinated as possible, even though we've opened it up to others. But at this point, fortunately, about 82% of 65-year-olds and above in Maryland have at least received one shot, but they're still getting to that final 18 because they're the highest risk group.
City officials say medical personnel are only administering the Pfizer vaccine at the Bowie Vaccination Clinic. For more information, visit cityofbowie.org/vax. I'm Katara Jones with CTV News.
City officials say the Bowie Senior Center is available 3 days a week for vaccinations. Residents can pre-register for shots at the clinic by visiting cityofbowie.org/vax. In other news, more than 1,200 COVID-19 cases have been reported in the last 24 hours. That's according to the state's Department of Health. This brings the total number of cases to more than 438,000. Meantime, 13 Marylanders have died from the virus in the last day. In Prince George's County, more than 81,000 people have contracted COVID-19. While the verdict in one of the most watched trials it ever is in, the nation held its collective breath for a few moments yesterday as the judge presiding over the murder trial of Derek Chauvin read the verdicts. The former Minneapolis police officer was found guilty on all counts: second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and manslaughter in connection with the death of George Floyd. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated a little over 10 hours. All in the while, the nation sat on the edge. Prince George's state's attorney, Aisha Brayboy, followed the trial and offered this reaction.
Well, I was very happy that justice was served, that an officer was being held accountable for his actions, that someone who murdered another human being was going to prison. So justice happened yesterday in that case. And what we need to ensure as we move forward is that justice happens in every case.
And while the trial lasted 3 weeks, it was a 9.5-minute video of Derek Chauvin pressing his knee on George Floyd's neck that the prosecution hammered home time and time again. This image went round the world, but despite the defense's claims of Floyd's drug use, a heart condition, and carbon monoxide poisoning, Chauvin was found guilty, and the people reacted.
Yes, I think it's a historic moment for the country, for people of color, and all over America, all over the world, because police officers, I do believe, need to be retrained, change the way they do business and change the way they make arrests.
It's no way around it that this man could have beat this charge. No way. I feel so good. I felt so relieved yesterday. Just to sit there, I sat there and I watched the news for hours because it's been on TV all day. But I really feel so relieved.
And just a day after the verdict, the Justice Department has announced a probe into the practices and culture of the Minneapolis Police Department. Attorney General Merrick Garland says the Justice Department will be looking into whether the department has engaged in unconstitutional or unlawful policing. You're watching CTV News. I'm Keisha Butts. We'll be back in a moment.
I moved to Florida with literally pennies in my pocket and a prayer. I needed a new start. Dacian looks like a very typical 3-year-old until you ask him, "What's your name? How old are you?" My son has a lot of behaviors that would show as being autistic. Most kids can tolerate a variety of foods, but unfortunately for Dacian, everything has to be organic and raw. I wasn't ashamed to go to the food pantries. It's expensive to eat healthy, and nutrition is very important to Dacian's health. The healthy organic food that we receive dramatically helped his social skills. Most people would say, she really doesn't have much of a life. But to me, I have everything right there next to me and my son.
Welcome back. You may be able to place a wager on football game in Maryland by the end of the year. The state legislature recently approved a framework for sports betting under emergency legislation. A new commission must first be formed with 7 appointed members by the governor and General Assembly. That commission will hire a consultant to develop the criteria for an application process. Once the group starts meeting, it will then begin licensing, and background checks of applicants.
Casinos are ready to launch, almost immediately. They all have already established business relationships with sports betting vendors, people who actually conduct the whole back-end system. And again, sports betting is very complex, needs a high level of sophistication and expertise. It's really not a field for amateurs. And those entities will still need to be licensed by our commission as well. So, but I think, given that those entities are large, well-known international firms, that the licensing process there could take place fairly quickly. So I think in a perfect world, again, we may be able to see, certainly at the casinos, some sports betting take place probably in time for football season, if not the Super Bowl.
Madenici says the rollout of online betting could take a bit longer. He expects the majority of wagers to be made via cell phones and other electronic devices. The county police department is mourning the loss of a fellow officer. Corporal Ahmed Lopez, a 15-year veteran, was off duty when he passed away last Tuesday evening during a medical emergency. Lopez was a dedicated officer and served most of his career with the Bureau of Patrol at the District Force Station in Oxon Hill. Officers say Lopez loved spending time with his family and friends and will be greatly missed. Police are asking for assistance locating a missing woman. 35-year-old Stacy Kinzel was last seen in the 4100 block of Southern Avenue yesterday around 10:30 a.m. Miss Kinzel is a black female, 5'8", and weighs about 198 pounds. She has short black hair but was last seen wearing a shoulder-length wig, black shirt, and pink pants. Anyone with information is asked to call 301-772-4911. The Maryland Health Department hires an advisor to focus on vaccinating underserved areas of Prince George's County. Katina Rojas Nazario Joy will provide advisory and operational support to the state's vaccination team. Her new position will include connecting with community leaders and residents to promote and improve vaccine administration, as well as provide communication support. The announcement comes after months of lagging county vaccination rates and the state increasing efforts to reach out to communities of color. The Montgomery County Public School System will hold in-person graduation ceremonies this year. The County Council approved a measure that will allow both outdoor and indoor ceremonies, but with restrictions. Outdoor graduations will be limited to 50% capacity. Indoor ceremonies will be limited to 25% capacity or 250 people. Graduation events will be limited to 2 hours. And we'll have more news. Stay with us.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit princegeorgescountymd.gov. That's princegeorgescountymd.gov. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.
Welcome back. Police are investigating a double shooting in Coral Hills. One of the victims was killed. She's been identified as 18-year-old Jaylyn Quinones. Police say the Suitland resident was pregnant. The baby was delivered during an emergency surgery and is listed in critical but stable condition. The second woman suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The crime happened around 4:45 last night. The two were shot as they were crossing Quinn Street towards Southern Avenue. Police continue to search for whoever shot them and why. A group of Fort Washington residents complains about litter and abandoned cars in their neighborhood. John Pierre has lived on Clear Creek Drive for more than 20 years, but he says he's upset about the amount of trash in his neighborhood. He says some days there's trash all over the sidewalk and street. Pierre says he's complained to the county's Department of the Environment for about a year, but nothing has been done.
Ever since I've been here, I work very hard to keep my property up, to make my property look as it does now, and to have someone move next door to you and trash the front of their house and all that. It's very frustrating.
He also says there are about 8 abandoned cars on the street. We have not heard back from county officials. Tomorrow marks Earth Day, when people across the nation look for ways to clean up and protect the environment. While most of us have our feet on the ground for the special event, others are studying it from above on the International Space Station. NASA and its commercial partner SpaceX were supposed to mark the event with a crew rotation to the ISS, but the event was just postponed until Friday due to the weather. The 4 astronauts will join the Expedition 65 crew for a 6-month science mission.
There's a wide variety of stuff helping us down here on Earth, anything from the wide range of Earth observation equipment that they've got up there looking down on the planet and helping us get a unique vantage point. They're also doing stuff with environmental systems like water recycling and plant technology that have direct applications to improving water access here on Earth.
When you're viewing things that are there from space, what does that tell us, in terms of how you're viewing Earth and in terms of some of the weather systems, for example?
Weather study is a big piece of what they do on ISS. They provide a vantage point even to seeing like the hurricanes and tracking those and giving us that vantage point up there. But it's about understanding the weather, understanding our climate, and taking full advantage of that platform to help give us that vantage point.
Friday's launch will also be the first reuse of a spacecraft and rocket for a crewed mission. Reusable equipment will be the future of spaceflight as NASA looks toward returning humans to the moon. And let's get a check on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, mostly clear with lows in the 30s. Thursday, mostly sunny with highs in the upper 50s. Friday, sunny skies with highs around 65 degrees. Saturday, showers likely with high temperatures near 68. And now for your community calendar. You're invited to the virtual Montpelier Festival of Herbs, Tea, and the Arts. That's this coming Saturday, April 24th. It's an all-day event, and you're invited to register. For more information, call 301-699-2255 or visit pgparks.com. And that wraps up our CTV News Update. Join us again tomorrow at 4:30. Have a good night.